Okay, so I wanted to explain the background of this poem. Um, so I have for a long time been criticizing people because they are assuming that certain tasks in the future, when machines are smarter than we are, machines will never be able to do because humans are so special and perfect that you just never approach these things. And as you go down the list and kind of examine these things, it seems like there really isn't anything specific that you can be absolutely certain that humans can do that machines can't. But rather than criticizing other people, it occurred to me maybe I should try to come up with myself with an idea of something that maybe is uniquely human. And I became aware of the writing of Alan Watts and Wallace Stevens about the idea that the job of the poet is really to describe feelings and ideas that cannot be put in words. That's a paradox, eh? And so that therefore they're there to convey a feeling, to inform about things that are beyond what you can do with words. And therefore, it's not just the words. It's like the cadence. It's the feeling you're left with at the end of the line, at the end of the whole poem, and so on. So the second part of the preamble here has to do with my 95-year-old father, who lives in New Haven. And Wallace Stevens had a long, long poem about this particular subject of what poetry is and how it might be describing things that cannot be put in words. And that poem is called An Ordinary Evening in New Haven. And now my father lives in New Haven, and not only that, but at the age of 95, he's developed more and more interest in poetry. So he recites more poetry every day, and it's become kind of a big part of his life. Okay, so that's the background for this poem. Is the ineffable magic of poetry what robots can never do? That's an interesting word, ineffable. It's kind of a funny word, but it means, in essence, something that cannot be put in words. Is the ineffable magic of poetry what robots can never do? And what about An Ordinary Evening in New Haven, Part 2? The job of the poet is to say what can never possibly be said. So said Alan Watts, now long since dead. All poetry is trying to say what cannot be described in words, ironically. Wallace Stevens had this idea iconically in 1950 in a very long poem, Ordinary Evening in New Haven, which now feels like a task to me given to write a part 2 of that poem now then, since my 95-year-old father lives in New Haven and his interest in poetry has reawakened at an age where others may think only the grave does beckon. He spends more and more time reciting poetry. So let us return to the possibility. It's not the words, it's the space between the words that is important, and the feeling after the words have went. The silence. After, for instance, Kazmega says, so welcome to the dark side of part-time apartheid, or show me the bottom of the barrel, and I'll show you the trickle-up effect. Or the age-old question, what is gentrification? Or the silence after Dweneman says, new words for known, that will have us all speak new words for home, into parched stone, within powdered brown salvation, and becomes a known generation of words. And the medical student watching us wishes this could go on forever. So maybe somehow therein we will the essence of poetry discover. Okay, so that is the poem in its very first draft at 3:12 in the afternoon, and we'll see where it goes. Majid is coming by with his wife at 5. I'll do it again for them, and then I'll do it tonight, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, now Graham, Sheeta, any thoughts, comments?
As somebody who's a complete novice for poetry,
Yes.
it wouldn't be right for me to comment, I don't think.
Yes, it would. No, I think you're wrong about that. First of all, you have much more life experience. You just told me you feel like you were born in 1950 when the poem was written, but you were actually born in 1986. But many of the people tonight are in their teens and 20s, so like you're way more wise than they are. So, yeah. What about this? Are there important things that you can't put in words, or you think there is nothing like that?
I think there are. I often struggle to put what I'm feeling into words, and therefore maybe that form of poetry is a
right. Okay.
I'm
just going to turn this recording device. No, this is good, because otherwise people will say, "But who was that?
I
Who
didn't
had
say
this
that
wise
consent form."
opinion?" Come on, so yeah. So yeah, there are things like love, longing, relationship kind of things, right? That are hard to put into words, and that's what a lot of poetry is about. Yeah. So, and do you think it's possible? There's something about human beings that makes us able to convey that, whereas if a robot spoke the same words, that it wouldn't have the same effect? Or do you think actually a Graham Reed robot would be better at everything, including poetry, than you yourself would?
I would hope
eventually.
not.
Okay. So what things would, if we made a Graham Reed robot, what things would you always be better at doing than it?
I think even having the feelings in the first place would be something that a robot could never ever do.
Right.
And it may have the capacity to put into words things that I might struggle to put into words.
Right.
But it wouldn't be from the perspective of my own human feelings. It would be
right.
a robot's view of.
Right. So why do you think that a robot would never be able to have feelings?
Because feelings are an innately human thing.
Well, don't you think animals feel? It's not.
Well,
innate.
You
think it's innately biological?
Yeah.
You have to be made up of cells.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't think it can be successfully simulated in silicon?
I suppose it depends what you mean by feelings.
Yeah, but I mean, if machines are smarter than we are, they will maybe know us better than we know ourselves, right? You don't think they would begin to approach the idea of what feelings we're having if they actually know us better than we know ourselves?
But I think there's a difference between knowing feelings and feeling feelings.
Yeah. So a lot of people postulate that they will never be able to feel empathy, but empathy is something that you can define what it is. And I think also if a human being, like if a stranger comes up to you and starts indicating strong empathy towards you for no particular reason,
Yeah.
you'd probably be really suspicious of that person,
Yes.
right? Where if there's something like an empathy robot that's supposed to do that, you'd be totally calm because you know it's the job of the empathy robot to be empathetic, and so you wouldn't be worried that it's trying to scheme or steal something from you or do something evil,
Yeah.
right? So.
I think it's more the people who don't have empathy that scare me more than the people who do, even if it's unwarranted empathy,
Yes, yes.
because those people are psychopaths.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
Yeah, and a
wonder-
lot of them are like CEOs and powerful people.
Yeah,
right?
they're very successful
Those
people.
two things track
that-
together, yeah.
That might be where robots gain the edge because they don't have empathy and therefore everything is a logical sequence of.
Well, robots will be our creation. They're like humanity's children, right? But just like real children, they can rebel. They can learn skills that their parents don't have, you know, stuff like
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
this will be more extreme, you know, that they may learn 1,000-fold more than the human creators of the original robots were able to do.
Yeah.
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 So anyway.
I still think a robot will not be able to feel in the way we do. They might know all about feelings, but there's something in here.
No, they probably won't feel exactly
Yeah.
as we do. But if you can define how good you are at feeling, they may be better at it than we are.
Almost definitely. Yeah.
Right? They may be better at it, but but it wouldn't be the same. They may be more capable of, you know, doing reasoning than we are, and so.
Yeah.
No, I think that's but yeah. Anyway, Ishita, do you have any thoughts about this? Or?
Well, about the feelings thing, I agree with what Graham was saying because I think they would be convincingly able to act like they have feelings and do what they're supposed to do to present their feelings,
Right.
and maybe even like interpret other people's feelings better than we can as humans. But like you were saying about poetry being something that robots can't do, even if they can act like they have those feelings, I think a lot of poetry that actually resonates with you is because of the person who's saying the words, and you know that they've gone through those things, and then you can
Right.
you connect because you both
there's
felt the
real
same thing.
meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really believe a robot when they said those things, even if they said it
Right.
passionately.
But what about believing people? Like, I mean, in the old days, I suppose if somebody gave a speech, you wouldn't question whether they believed what they were saying. You may not agree with what they're saying, but you would think, well, if they're giving a speech on this, it must be what they believe. But now there's pretty good evidence that, like, professional keynote speakers modify their speeches for the audience because they want to be asked back. You know, like if they give the audience. So
Politicians as well.
yeah. So what do you think about that? So it is. I mean, in 2018, is a human being more believable when they speak as saying what they really think? Or do you always have this backup possibility that that's not what they really think at all? Like,
I think humans are very capable of lying about what they really feel
Yeah.
and what they really think.
yeah,
And I think that's more obvious to us these days with media and so on.
right,
You see a lot of lies being thrown around,
yeah,
and whether a robot would be able to... It might be able to lie better, but it might have less reason to lie.
yeah. I mean, it could be kind of amoral in the beginning with no morals, and then we could teach it, if we taught it some sort of moral reasoning, it could get better at right and wrong and morals than
Yeah.
That
humans.
depends on who teaches it more.
Yeah,
And
it
also,
does.
what do you define as morality as well?
that's the
Right.
part that's more worrisome because
Yeah.
we have pretty poor morals as a group.
Right.
So it really
Yeah.
depends on the individual who actually decides to decide which morals to put in.
Right. Right.
So I'm pretty sure robots could lie too. I mean, if it benefits them or their creator, then
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you both very much.